This is the only level 5 specialized mental health care facility in sub-Saharan Africa. And our corporate tagline is to provide recovery in dignity.
For those who are substance users, we have got a smoke detector. In case you start smoking in the room, you can be able to detect that you're smoking from this room. So also before you are admitted in this room, you must go via the doctor's clinic or the doctor's office. The doctor assesses you, then he or she confirms that you are safe to be admitted in a private room.
In Kenya today, people who are suffering from mental health are affecting our workforce.
Persons with mental and substance use disorder, these are 11 to 18% of the world's population.
Chiromo Hospital Group marks its quarter-century year 2021. It was founded to provide dignified, quality mental health care in Africa with a vision that is very clear that in all that is done, it has to be based on evidence. Our quarter-century journey has been anchored on partnerships. And I want to thank the Directorate of Counseling, Chaplaincy and Psychosocial Support, KPS, NPS, for this honor to host the county commanders of this great republic. In February, Dr. if I'm not wrong, we hosted a similar delegation here of the regional commanders, formation commanders and directors of the same service. And this is a follow-up, and I think this is the third, because the first training was with the counseling team in the same directorate. We are honored that this is a partnership that we are so passionate about. As a brand, we exist to provide preventive mental health care, promotive mental health care, and curative and rehabilitative. You have seen the environment in which that is provided, and our corporate tagline is to provide recovery in dignity. This is a testament to the same. And we are honored that us and when the county commanders of this great republic have their servicemen that require care, the directorate at KPS is quick enough to link them to this facility and other facilities. This facility offers that recovery in dignity to your servicemen. Mental illness globally, currently, more than 1 billion people have mental illnesses. 300 million people have depression. Very few know that they have mental illnesses. This stigma, the discrimination that is so deeply rooted in this service deters many people from accessing dignified quality mental health care like this. And we are honored and very happy today that this great team of commanders will be the steering team to reverse the centuries of that entrenched stigma and discrimination. The SSO of NPS, chapter 18 and 25, establish the reason as to why we are here. The counseling and the chaplaincy supports this. The IG himself, from 2020, has been engaging partners similar to CHG in that regard. Mwamko Mpya, Healing the Men in Uniform, and many other initiatives have been undertaken with one clear mandate: to ensure that the servicemen, their mental health is optimized. We are very happy today that, led by the Presidential Advice on Mental Health, Dr. Wairoto, the corporate psychiatrist, Dr. Eric Juguna, one of our anchor psychiatrists, Cleopa Njiru, one of our senior clinical psychologists, Grace Gashanja, one of our senior psychologists, will be able to walk that journey to be able to have a firm understanding that will help us in the management of our servicemen. As commanders, within that command structure of NPS, the county commanders play a vital role. We are the ones who are first to notice when our servicemen are wavering, when our servicemen are overwhelmed with the stresses that we are exposed to. We will understand what first responders are and the stresses we are exposed to, and how to work through and still remain healthy in that serious, traumatizing exposures.
This is a very, very important session, but it's going to have a long-time impact in our lives. Some of the problems that we complain about on the ground all the time are going to be handled in a manner that you would not have imagined. We trained some senior commanders here, the regional police commanders, the headquarter directors, formation and unit commanders. They were here and they went out there with the idea, and they found out that it is a very vital training and very vital area that we cannot live without. The other thing, we thought now we should go to the county police commanders. County police commanders are still in a strategic position where you can influence a lot of things. We are very sure that when you leave this place, it's not going to be the same again. You are going to influence that which is supposed to be cascaded down to the junior officers, and you are going to influence the positive change that we want to see.
Sometimes we do things without appreciating the extent of their impact in the long term, and we think that what we are doing is simply carrying out our duties and responsibilities as prescribed by our terms of contract and engagement. I would like to persuade Dr. Makoha and your team that what you are doing for the people of the Republic of Kenya is far-reaching, is fundamental, and you are members, if you allow me to use the term, of a revolution army that will overturn the entire understanding of what policing, security, and national integration and integrity are all about. Which brings me to why we as a Chiromo group of hospitals have, in a manner of speaking, accepted the responsibility of being the champions of looking after our brothers and sisters whose duty it is to ensure our security and safety as a people. Over the years, and I have to accept personal responsibility for this, I have had an interest in the welfare and well-being of all groups in our society that have, in one way or another, been marginalized. In the early stages, we talked about marginalized children. Now, we are talking more and more about the marginalized boy child. We have an interest in marginalized groups all over the world and all over the country. And it has occurred to me and others working in this field that the disciplined forces are a completely neglected and ill understood and not acknowledged group of men and women. And when I think about it, I trace that neglect of men and women in blue to the colonial era when, and I lived at that time, so I know what I'm talking about, one of the first things that were done to members of the disciplined forces was to take away your humanness and your dignity in every conceivable manner, beginning with your accommodation, moving on to the way that you are dressed, kipande na ile kakofia ya sijui kanaitwa namna gani, to the way we as civilians were socialized to relate to you, men and women in blue. My reflection on at least part of what the problem might be is the fact that we ourselves, as government, we have alienated ourselves almost by training from our humanness. In fact, when you think about it carefully, we have allowed ourselves to be the agents of self-stigmatization. We have become no longer our brother's keeper. And the reason we have stopped being our brother's keeper is because we have stopped being brothers. And we are not brothers to ourselves. We are not sisters to ourselves. And the reason we have arrived at that position, in part, is because we have agreed with the general population. Mtu wa serikali, kama ni police, kama ni PC ama whatever it is, huyo halali. Huyo hana nyumba, hana mke, hana gari, hana watoto, hana shida, hana Mungu wake. A police officer, a government officer, sio hata kama mnyama, kwa sababu hata wanyama wana nyumba, mahali wanaenda kulala. A police officer, a government officer, ni kama shetani. It's like a demon. And then we have started behaving it. We have started behaving it so that hata wewe ukiwa ni mtu wa serikali ama ni mtu wa polisi, ukiwa una mtoto and you're having problems with your son or daughter, or if you're a police officer and you're having a domestic problem with your wife or with your husband, we have been socialized to believe that we are created by God using very special mold that says police officer, that does not allow you to feel pain. That is what society has made us. So what do? We believe them. We behave it. And we become it. In our relationships, therefore, first with ourselves, secondly amongst ourselves, and thirdly within the community, we survive by denying our humanity and humanness. And that has serious consequences and repercussions. I am here this morning, ladies and gentlemen, to try and persuade you, mpende, msipende, as Sharif Nasir used to say, you are nothing but just normal human beings. Maybe very good men and women, even. But you're nothing more than that. You're just normal human beings. And because you're human beings, you are condemned by nature to be like me, to be like Dr. Hongo, to be like Dr. Juguna, Dr. Iroto, and others. That condemnation of being human means that as a condemned human being, you must sleep. You must rest. You must feel pain. You will have financial problems. If that condemnation is correct, as I believe it is, it means upende usipende. Out of every 100 of you here, and those in your command, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, 20 of that 100 will suffer from one kind of mental illness or another at one point in your lives. The fact that we don't allow you to go to hospital because you're a strong big boy does not mean the condition is not there. It means the condition is there, but your employer does not allow you to express it. Society does not allow you to express it. If that condemnation to the fact that you're just normal human beings, and I submit that all of you are sons and daughters of woman, mpende msipende, you will suffer from conditions that I'm sure these good doctors will talk to you about, which include conditions like the post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a condition that we first noticed and reported on. I don't know if any one of you were around after the August 98 bomb blast at the American Embassy. Who was around at that time? Okay, all right. We noticed that police officers and journalists were members of that severely neglected group of men and women, because as we dug out and pulled out those bodies, nobody cared that police officers were getting tired or that they were being exposed to very high-risk environments that lead on to severe post-traumatic stress disorders. What is the point that I am making here to you this morning? I am here, ladies and gentlemen, to invite you to come on a journey together with me, together with the team led by Dr. Hongo, together with your government. You've been told by Dr. Hongo in passing, and I will read you something small here, that in his 56th Madaraka Day presentation in Narok, this is what our president had to say. I'm sure you all remember this, but I'll read it all the same for effect and impact. And to illustrate the fact that what we are doing here today is completely in tandem with the intentions of our government from the highest level. This is what the president said, and I read. Depression has today become a common phenomenon, I've told you that, and it affects persons from all walks of life, I have said including police officers, and all ages including my age and your age. The President continued, I urge employers, the police service included, and institutions of learning to invest more time and resources in monitoring and facilitating mental well-being of their charges. Specific instruction from the President. You are here this morning, ladies and gentlemen, so that the doctors here can assist you to monitor the well-being of your charges. The President continued, I therefore direct the Ministry of Health in consultation with the county government, Ministry of Education, Labor, and so on, to formulate an appropriate policy response. That's where I came in. I was then instructed by the same government that we all work for to prepare this report. All right? If you haven't seen it, I have a few copies that we will give to a few people, but it's available online in the Ministry of Health website. We reported many things. But on page 30 of this report, and to explain why we're here this morning, and as a consequence of our going round the whole country, this is what the task force recommended to the government, that the different security service institutions must, in bold, provide psychological services for both managers and staff at disciplined institutions. Now, this recommendation has been accepted by government. The institution should establish regular staff support sessions. Sindio tuko hapa? All right? So, the point I am trying to explain to you, ladies and gentlemen, this is not hot air from an old man who's about to retire. This is government policy that recognizes the fact that police officers, men and women in blue, are human beings with human needs and for whom resources must be put in place. And the government, through the Ministry of Health, should mainstream mental health in all sectors, including, and I'm quoting now, the disciplined services. I'd like you to tell this group of men and women, if you have ever had any contact whatsoever with mental health services, either through your people you work with, either amongst your police officers, do you have any experience you'd like to share with us?
Abuse of drug and psychotropic substance is the biggest challenge that we are facing. We have formed several teams through the multi-agency approach. A lot of agencies came together, and the lead agency there is NACADA. We are doing our best to ensure that there is crackdown. We have also ensured that we have a psychosocial support team on the ground. So far, I have 25 counselors who are going around the stations. The service headquarters is just at the doorstep. Often they organize programs. They come to Kiambu. We have forums to develop, to mentor our officers and develop. That's why we may not have any serious incident, officers using their firearms against colleagues in Kiambu. We are doing our best, sir.
I am Patrick Okeri, County Police Commander, Taita Taveta. Between the month of March to date, I have brought here 7 officers for the service. And out of the 7 officers, 4 have already reported back to my command after being handled and treated, and they are now much better, and they can assist me in handling the affairs of the county.
Personally, for the last 3 months, I've brought 7 officers, and apart from 1 who was referred back because of some disciplinary cases, all the others are back. And apart from us as the police service appreciating, their families have really appreciated.
My name is Beatrice Kiragori, County Police Commander Nakuru. I want to confirm that yes, we have officers who who have mental illnesses, and in my case, I have taken several in rehabilitation, and they have done very well. But in most cases, when incidences occur at our counties or at our police stations, our senior commanders or ourselves to our junior commanders, we normally blame one another. Why did this happen? What were you doing as a commander? You have never talked to this officer. Now, I want to know, besides symptoms like overdrinking and use of drugs, what other indicators will I be able to identify so that I can be able to know this officer really needs help?
What are the visible, common mental disorders that you as a lay person will be able to pick up in those people who under your charge?
Asante sana, Chair. Kindly let's clap for Dr. Frank Jenga. Asante sana.
Mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential. What do we say about poor mental health? One will have difficulty how one thinks and feels. You should be able to live with normal life stresses and disappointments. That's how we know someone has good mental health. So what are mental health disorders? These are conditions which affect your mood, thinking, and behavior. What are the common mental illnesses? I'll start with depression. So depression basically is a mental illness where you have a low mood, okay? You have changes in sleep, you have changes in appetite, okay? And you also start isolating yourself. So you notice someone starts withdrawing. They'll keep to themselves. Some people may start using alcohol more than normal. Some people may miss work, okay? Other issues are anxiety. Anxiety is actually the most common mental illness. Schizophrenia is a chronic disease. This is a disease best handled by us professionals because it affects the way you think and you perceive things. It is not curable. So what causes mental illness? So the first thing is genes, okay? So you'll ask yourself, in our family, people usually get overwhelmed, okay? People drink a lot of alcohol. People feel suicidal. But the good thing with good mental health care, we are able to address those issues early. The next thing is life experiences. The next thing is extreme circumstances. So we know that some of us were involved perhaps in DUSIT. Some of us were involved in operation areas. So that's actually a big stressor. We've also noticed that diseases such as cancer, thyroid disease can actually cause mental illness. Then, of course, being isolated. So when you notice someone is keeping to themselves, lonely, these are people who are more prone to get mental illnesses. How do we recognize the symptoms? So the first thing you do is recognize the behavior. And number 2 is exposure to PTSD and time away from family. What are the risk factors for poor mental health amongst the police force? The first thing, you guys are the first responders. Working far from family is a challenge, and then regular transfers. I want to mention about premenstrual dysphoric disorder. This is a disorder many people don't mention. So this is a disorder basically where women who, when they are getting their periods, either 2 weeks during the duration or after, they actually get changes in mood. Okay? So a lady gets symptoms of depression when they are actually about to get their cycle. It makes people get fatigued. It makes ladies have mood changes. It makes ladies have anxiety, have depressive symptoms, and poor concentration. So this is something you can also watch out in your female colleagues.
We look at stigma in 2 things. One is the label, how people label and what statement they use, the ones we use. When you hear those ones, you can stigmatize yourself. So there is self-stigma. You accept the ripple. We are going to deal with the social or public stigma, what other people say, and then we are going to help them so that they go through a process where they stop self-stigma. Social stigma, what it is? It is an association, simply. When someone visits our hospital or any other hospital, there is that association with that group. The second is, for mental health, we have had stereotypes. And that's how people perceive anyone who goes to a rehabilitation center or to a hospital and is treated for mental health issues. So, why stigma of mental health? Underlying unknown. When you don't know something, then you come out with all the ones, the myths. Because people fear the unknown. What you don't know, you fear it. And hence the stigma. And stigma can lead to discrimination. If we discriminate, the work environment becomes difficult. There is what we have been calling before debrief. But currently, especially Chiromo Hospital Group, we are advocating psychological first aid, which is totally different from debrief. Because how we were trained to do debrief is you go to Westgate, the suit, bomb blast, and you tell someone to narrate that story. Psychologically, some research has shown you end up re-traumatizing that person. What we are emphasizing is psychological first aid. What is it? What is the strength? The first thing is information gathering techniques. We are able to gather information very fast. And then tested strategies, because it has worked elsewhere. Whenever you go, it's an accident, it's a crisis, whatever it is, even in our family, you need to first of all open and be ready to observe every small details. And then ask yourself, if it's a crisis, if it's a place that there is something new, what is the need here? Who needs help? Then safety and security. Then the next part is reasoning. Acknowledge the feelings. And then, are you able to calm down that person? And then ask for the needs and concerns of the person, and then help the person to find solutions. Link. And this is the most important part of psychological first aid. Relevant information, trying to get information in your area of command. Where are the counselors? Which are the hospitals? Which are the people that can help? That information, if we face it, if you are going down to face it, the outstation, the substations, if we train people well, they already will have something in the wall. Which ambulance to call? Which is the best hospital for this? All these are the things that we need to have the information. And then, if it is in a crisis, let someone tell you the loved people, the people who can support, because support system is very important. And then, practical problem solving. Those are the key things now. And then the services and the help that people will need during a crisis. So thank you so much. I'm humbled, and thank you for listening to us.
So we'll now have a question and answer session.
In psychology, we talk about the segment fluid catharsis, which is more on you're able to talking it out. So I want to understand more about that.
I agree with you, it is important, but what used to happen is someone is trained at a basic level and applies the technique of someone who is supposed to have gone through a serious training. Like that one of sigmoid fluid, it takes a full 2 years, once per week. And you need to also be psychoanalyst before you do it.
Debriefing immediately after has been found to cause secondary trauma and actually winds up being counterproductive in the long run. Hence the emergence of psychological first aid. To our bosses, when you go back to the counties, what I would say as a professional is resist the urge to pry out of curiosity. Have we all been there where we've had a member of staff who's gone through a traumatic experience and the human being in us wants to question just to get more details, and mostly it will be out of curiosity. Then that does more harm than good. It is better that you be there for them, practice active listening, and then forward them to the psychologists within the force, who will then activate the referral system.
I would like to know about the bipolar. The obvious signs of bipolar is not very clear to us.
Bipolar or mood disorder is a chronic mental illness which is characterized by chemical imbalances in the brain. So they'll either have that very high energy, we call it mania, or they become very low. So they actually get symptoms of depression. So they have very low mood, low energy, they lack sleep, they keep to themselves. So with bipolar, you escalate between high moods and low moods. But with bipolar, what I can say is these individuals need medication and therapy.
Thank you very much. Let's clap for these great doctors and senior clinical psychologists.
I appreciate the collaboration between the Kenya Police Service and Chiromo Hospital Group that will institutionalize preventive and promote mental health activities in the Kenya Police Service and the National Police Service at large. It is for this reason that we will continue to empower the county commanders on mental health issues, since they play a vital role in supporting the mental health of our officers. You have all my support in matters of mental health. Dignified quality mental health care services are available for you. The government cares about our welfare in the service, and that is why we have the insurance cover. We encourage our officers to fully adhere to the treatment plans. County commanders go out there and remain mental health ambassadors who will ensure the optimal mental well-being of our officers.
Facilitators are really contributed to the wellness of the officers by imparting that knowledge to the county commanders. Now we will cascade it down to the sub-county commanders and the station commanders, and they will benefit also.
It is going to enhance service delivery at the station level, the county level, and the sub-county level.